What's up, everybody? This is Moneyball. I'm Jason. I'm here with Donovan. And in this episode, we have an extremely special guest. We have here actor Dwyer Brown, who has been in many movies and many sitcoms, but is mostly known for his role as John Kinsella in Field of Dreams. Dwyer, thanks for joining us.
My pleasure, Jason. Good to be here.
Is this heaven?
What a movie. It's one of those very few movies in my life where I'll admit it made me shed a tear or maybe 10.
Some waterworks, yeah.
Yeah.
I've heard that a few times before. I always get a kick out of it. Usually guys say it like you did, kind of quietly, like, I got to admit,
Yeah.
I cried.
Yeah.
Right.
Nobody's
Like-
like, looking, right? Yeah.
Like they're the
Yeah.
only ones in the world.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
Exactly. I gotta remain tough. But people have such a strong connection to this movie, and especially dads. Did you know when you were making this movie that it was going to be anywhere close to what it is today?
It really didn't. It didn't have anything to recommend it, really. I mean, at the time, baseball movies were kind of a pariah. Bull Durham didn't come out till the summer we were shooting, so there hadn't been baseball movies made for years. And there's no sex in it, there's no love story, there's no violence. None of the things that make movies successful. So it was just a beautiful script, and I think most of us who were involved just thought, well, this is too. You don't come across really beautiful scripts very often, and it was really. I mean, even while we were shooting it, I didn't really realize how pivotal the role that I was playing was going to end up, because I was familiar with the book Shoeless Joe that it's based on, and in the book, John Kinsella appears in chapter 1, and he and Ray sort of have a conversation throughout the book, and it doesn't have that impact that meeting him at the very end, and certainly I always attribute James Horner's that haunting score, I think, creates a lot of momentum towards the end of the film when I make my appearance. So I got lucky, I guess.
Like when you signed up for it, like you probably just thought you were having a smaller role, right? You just had no clue the pivotal of your direct role, right?
Yeah. I just auditioned for it like anything else. I didn't, I wasn't in a position where I was being offered roles. So, I auditioned against 300 other guys, including Jim Carrey, it turns out. Wow. In any case, I was happy to get it. But when I went in for the first audition, I was kind of hoping that I could get a bigger part. That was my thought at the time, because like I said, I was familiar with the book where, the father was just sort of a peripheral character. And, I'm glad I didn't get my wish.
Yeah.
Kind of funny how that worked out, right? I mean, you went in for your, hey, maybe this is an opportunity, a segue leading into a different role, and it's become such a dynamic, legacy really of yourself, a portrayal of yourself. Let me ask who is Dwyer Brown? I mean, for the audience listening and watching, you've been in, obviously you have a phenomenal resume of a lot of different things you've appeared in and starred in. Where are you from? Where did you get your start?
Well, I grew up on a farm in Ohio.
Okay.
So, we had population 300 in Sharon Center, Ohio.
Okay.
So my dream of becoming an actor was very much a pipe dream when I was growing up. And, I just sort of kept doing plays in, kind of at the church. And then, I did one play in high school, and went to college to get into radio and television, but ended up doing a lot of plays there. And anyway, I ended up moving to Chicago because I couldn't get a job in advertising, which is what I'd got my degree in. I thought, well, if I'm going to starve, I might as well starve doing what I love. So
Sure.
I went to Chicago and got in a few plays, managed to get into a TV show that was being shot there called Chicago Story, which was, just an episode of something. But I sort of got bit by the bug, and I got an opportunity to go to LA, which was, it could have been a foreign country as far as this Ohio farm boy could make out. But just the work was out here. I ended up getting in the Thornbirds, which was a big miniseries at the time.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Got in a bunch of other things, and I've been working for 40 years, but this is the movie people remember me from. They think I live in Iowa and that I was just a local that was if I'm going to be remembered for something, you know, like I got down to the last 5 or 6 people against Tom Cruise for Risky Business.
Wow.
And I
Oh,
got down to
wow.
the 2 people against Brad Pitt for Thelma and Louise, you know, but
Oh, yeah.
spoiler alert, I didn't get those parts. You know, I you know, it's almost prophetic how it happened that I ended up going back to a farm to have this, you know, tiny part that people have remembered me for. So
It
you know,
really is. You
yeah,
know,
it's kind of amazing.
Yeah, being from, you know, just telling us being from that 300 town small that farm town, that's really can certainly, you know, play on the irony there of the way it turned out for you. You know, obviously it is an iconic role, right? And do you ever feel like, hey, listen, you know, I've been in so many other things. I'm not just this Field of Dreams, you know, guy. Do you ever get that feeling, or I mean,
You know, it's nice when people remember me for something else. You know, I was in Firefly and you know, Guardian, and you know,
Yeah.
there's some rabid fans out there who know other things, but
sure,
you know,
sure,
if I had to be remembered for one thing, I mean, this is definitely it.
good,
My dream as an actor was to make movies that would change people's lives, and I learned pretty quickly when I got to Hollywood that it doesn't happen that often. So you know, this one is one that happened to do that, and
Yeah.
despite the fact that I have such a small role in it, I think it's as close to me as anything I've done, and you know, there's kind of solace in that. Yes.
good. No, that's excellent. That's phenomenal.
I think it's really cool because you know, instead of like a paparazzi running around, you know, trying to take your picture and harass you, you have grown men come up to you and sometimes cry and tell how the movie and you they
Change them or
a
affect
memory
them.
of them playing catch with their dad and their sons, and you have to hear so many amazing stories that just got to make you feel so good.
Yeah, totally. I mean, to me, that's the other part of it. You know, a lot of people don't know that between when I got cast in the movie and when we went to shoot it in May of '88, my father died suddenly and unexpectedly. I was actually heading on my way to Iowa to shoot the movie, and I decided to stop at our farm in Iowa. Kind of anytime I got to the Midwest, I'd check in with my folks. But the day I arrived, my father died that night.
Oh my God.
Oh,
So, you know, you can imagine how strange it was to go from my father's funeral to playing a dead father walking out of the corn to, and so in that way, you know, unfortunately, I had a chance to make my peace with my dad, but nonetheless, when people come up to me and tell me, hey, you know, my dad died when I was, you know, when I was 3 or 4 years old, I never got to know the guy.
right.
That movie has meant so much to me because it gave, you know, visual belief that, you know, my dad was out there somewhere, or other people who said, you know, my dad
Yeah.
would never play catch with me. That movie breaks me up every time because, you know, I play catch with my kid now because, you know, that hurt my feelings when I was a kid, you know, like every story across the entire spectrum. And they see my face and tell me those stories, and we, you know, frequently end up, you know, hugging each other and crying, and you know, it brings my dad back to my mind. And you know,
That's
I always take I got my dad's split finger glove that he taught my brother and I to play
Look at
catch
that. Wow.
with. And you know, I take it with me wherever I go, and you know, let people try it on, and you know, it's just kind of a beautiful thing. Like I feel sometimes like a priest who does confessions, you know,
Yeah.
at minor league ballparks across the country. And but it's been a very rewarding thing for me because
Sure.
you know, a lot because of that experience with my dad.
Yeah. That's just amazing. Were you at the first Field of Dreams game?
You mean the major league game?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I've been to both of them, which, you know, it's been, I mean, I don't know how it looked on television. Everybody tells me it looked incredible, but
It's just amazing.
being in that stadium, watching people hit home runs into the corn was just extraordinary. I mean, particularly the Yankees White Sox game was just phenomenal.
sure.
I mean, you couldn't have scripted that if you were trying, but yeah, it really was fantastic. And despite, you know, when MLB said they're going to build a field there, I was, you know, kind of dubious. I sort of think MLB can, you know, kind of screw up anything if they
Right,
want
right,
to.
right. I could see
They
that
really
being
did
weird,
a good job. They built that stadium. It's, you know, it's the right size, and they used old wood siding. You know, they have the hand operated scoreboard, you know, and the way it's placed in the corn is just, you know, extraordinary. So, you know, they really, hats off to them. They did a great job. You walk through the corn to get to the field.
Right.
They have music from the movie playing, and there's cutouts of Aaron Judge and all these guys, hidden in the corn. I mean, it was really it was like an amusement park ride. It was just fantastic.
Had to give you chills and goosebumps and just kind of take you back, right?
It totally did. This movie itself, people tell me they cry, but I cry when I see the movie, which tells me it's something much bigger than my performance in it. You usually can't watch yourself and, be emotional, but the movie is just this, brilliant little thing that creates this emotion, I think, in anybody who's a father or a son. And like I said, whether you had a great dad or a terrible dad or no dad at all, it gets to you. And I just feel honored to have been a part of it.
MLB has done a great job, of recreating. So there was a generation, obviously, 1989, if I'm not mistaken, on the movie.
Yeah, it came out in 89. Yeah.
And a whole generation of folks that were reintroduced, right? So when MLB decided, hey, we're going to come out and do this, that's just a whole nother generation of kids, my own kids included, who, hey, Dad, what's this Field of Dreams? What is this? And guess what? Now they know who Dwyer Brown is. So, it's pretty amazing how they did do a great job with it. They did it classy. Like you said, they didn't go for overkill, right? They didn't make some giant monstrosity of a park. They did everything pretty classy there. Now, have you always been a baseball guy or different sports? I mean, did you play a lot of sports growing up?
I got from my freshman high school baseball team. I was the youngest kid in my class, so I blame it on being developmentally small.
Of course, yeah.
What I tell all the guys that made the team is that it's my picture that's in the Baseball Hall of Fame. So I guess I win in the long run.
You absolutely win. You got them there, and you have that forever. So absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, and the other thing that I don't know if you guys know about, I just recently bought a building in Dyersville, Iowa, where we shot the movie. It's this old building from 1860 that used to be a brewery, and my partner David Fagan and I built the Baseball Hall of Dreams. Okay. When you go to Iowa, and I encourage everyone to go to that field if you love the movie or love baseball. Yeah, there's nothing there, but it is still just such hallowed ground, I think, for baseball fans. But there's little else to do there, and in the little town of Dyersville, which has like 6,000 people, right. Over the years, it kind of gets shrugged off. People come from Dubuque, drive to the field, and then drive back to Dubuque, but don't go the 3 miles to the little town. Anyway, we created this Baseball Hall of Dreams, which sort of celebrates the game of baseball and basically all the unsung heroes of baseball. The Hall of Fame does a great job with people with the stats, but there's so many great players, disabled players, immigrant players, so we made this little museum there, and it's just $5 to get in. It's right next to the If You Build It exhibit, which is the museum about the making of the movie. So we were trying to give people somewhere else to go when they go to Iowa to see the field. And anyway, it's just, again, part of the legacy of having been in this 6-minute role in this movie 35 years ago that, now I'm a baseball museum owner, and it's all because of Field of Dreams.
Yeah, that's
I can tell how genuine, of a person that you are, right? I mean, just intuitively and just speaking with you here, and the fact that, that you guys did that is absolutely amazing. When did you guys purchase that? And I guess it was an old brewery that you turned, into the museum. Is there any other projects that you would want, to build that up a little bit, or are you just going to kind of leave it isolated, or is there any other plans there?
Well, it's actually a huge building, and
it is. Okay.
There's a website, the Baseball Hall of Dreams, or the Baseball Building is what we're calling it.
Okay.
But next year, another baseball museum is opening in the building.
Yeah, there you go. See, that's what I meant. Yeah.
It's sort of about Iowa-centric baseball, because Iowa has been a center for baseball. Even though the MLB game was the first one played in Iowa. Yep. Comiskey made his home in Dubuque, Iowa, and these people that were pivotal in the early days of baseball. We are looking actually for a restaurant, a baseball-themed restaurant. We have a huge lower floor that we think would be a great bar and restaurant. This building is from 1860, which is the time when baseball sort of became popular in America, just before the Civil War, and got kind of spread by soldiers in the Civil War. So it's amazing to think that that these bricks and stones at our building were being laid when Abraham Lincoln was president and baseball was in infancy. So we're excited to have, sort of make it all baseball themed businesses. And we've got 4 in there now. We're going to have a batting center. Somebody wants to run a batting center in the baseball mecca of Dyersville, Iowa. Look it up on thebaseballbuilding.com.
Okay, absolutely. And thank you very much for that. And that's now on my things to do. I am such a baseball enthusiast. Actually, our first episode, I don't know if you had a chance, to go through and check out Moneyball yet. The first episode we ever did was on each MLB stadium. So I kind of pride myself. I've been to every stadium, along with my wife and family. And that's just something that we started. And, not only do you go get to see that town, but you get to see each stadium. And, I think there's a certain uniqueness, to everyone. And any baseball enthusiast would go crazy over the idea of what you just said, because I didn't know about that at all. And I'll tell you right now, like, that's my heart's pumping. I'm excited to check that out.
Yeah. We're just excited to kind of offer something back to the town. And baseball is such a big game, and, the Hall of Fame does such a great job with, the big stars, but there's so many, Native American players and women who made huge contributions, who, deserve some recognition. And we hope to do that at our little museum.
I love that.
Great. That is great. This movie's completely changed your life. You travel around the world and do autograph signings and appearances and everything. Tell us some more about, like, your life now. Like where have you gone? What have you done?
Well, for the first 25 years since the movie was shot, I was kind of embarrassed by the attention. I had this 5-minute role in the movie, and my feeling was, Kevin and James Earl and Ray Liotta and all those guys did all the heavy lifting to open the audience's heart. And all I did, at the end of this movie was take off this catcher's mask, and, I got the benefit of all this, warmth and affection and.
Yeah, they get enough credit.
Yeah.
Well, in any case, I was a little, embarrassed by it, and to be honest, and, but because I'd had all these fans come up to me and tell me these stories, I assumed that this was happening to James Earl and Kevin and all these other people for all these years. And I was hoping that they would write a book about these incredible stories that they must have been hearing. And then I realized, if you run into Kevin Costner in the unlikely event you should do that, he's got 100 movies you can talk to him about. With me, for most fans, it was this movie. And so anyway, I ended up writing this book. And once I wrote the book, which, kind of tells a lot of stories about us shooting the movie and all these stories or many of these stories that the fans have told me, I sort of took a little more ownership of that role. And I thought, you know what, maybe I didn't get Risky Business. Maybe I didn't get Thelma Louise, but this is the part I got. If I'm going to beat myself up for missing out on those, I have to at least give myself credit for getting this one. So as a result, that's when I sort of started making appearances. And I've visited probably 70 or 80 minor league stadiums. I've been to major leagues too. I've been, welcomed in Wrigley. I got to throw out a first pitch at Fenway, and, and Cleveland and Tropicana Field. I do these appearances at ballparks, and I have this, I don't take personal credit for it, but I have this line of 100 people who just want to meet me, shake my hand. They want to tell me their personal attachment to that movie. So many people tell me that's my movie. You run into anybody from Iowa and they're like, hey, I'm from Iowa, and to me, it's just very touching that people take such ownership in this film. And, in my experience, people want to give something, when the field sort of remained after the movie left, people came to the field. They somehow found it. This is before GPS. This field is in the middle of nowhere in Iowa.
Yeah.
And they would leave stuff. They'd leave their dad's baseball hat or a mitt. They'd take $100 bill and put it under a rock in the driveway. There's something that people are so attached to this movie, and they want to express that by giving something to the movie or taking something away from the movie. That people take ears of corn from the field. And it really is a different movie in that way. There's nothing else I've been in or any other actor I've ever talked to where fans have that kind of attachment and emotional attachment to a film. And, so as a result, I like I say, I think of myself as kind of a priest. I go around to these ballparks and frequently we have a catch on the field. just be lines.
Hold on. I heard it. I heard it. Have a catch. I heard it.
Have a
Okay,
good,
I'm
yeah.
ready, man. Where's your mitt?
That was one of my questions to you at the end. It was it, play catch or have a catch? I think it's a no-brainer here when we're talking to Dwyer, right?
Yeah, well, you know what? I'll tell you what, that's a good story around that too. Kevin and I, became pretty good friends while we were shooting the movie. And we had this kind of very intimate and delicate scene to shoot. And beforehand we were talking about it and Kevin said, "Hey man, I don't get this. What's this have a catch thing?" And I said, "Yeah, I know. I was a kid in Ohio. We said play catch." He said, "Yeah, me too.
Sure.
I'm from California. We said play catch." And I said,
Yeah.
"You know what?" I said, Phil, the director had also, adapted the script and we kind of said, well, maybe we should go to him. Maybe Phil doesn't know baseball because this is going to sound awkward to everybody.
Yeah. This is great.
Kevin and I put our arms around each other and kind of, steeled ourselves and, went to the director and said, "Hey, Phil, what's with this have a catch thing?" And he said, yeah, I've heard it. Look, I'm from Long Island where we say have a catch. And I did that my whole childhood and that's staying in the movie. And we're
Wow.
going, okay, fine. And, in retrospect, to me, it's kind of nice because, play catch is a game. Have a catch is kind of an event. And in context of the movie, that catch at the end is much more important than a game. And the other thing is whenever you say have a catch, anybody who knows the movie or knows baseball knows that it's associated with the movie.
Yeah.
So to me, there's something poetic about it that I think is better than play catch, even though, it sounds a little foreign on the tongue. I think it was a good choice on Phil's part and I'll tell him that, Phil. That's a good move.
I am so happy you just shared that story with us. I really am. I mean, that's amazing. And I think so many people, always, they have to wonder where that came from. So thank you for that. They actually, the last Field of Dreams game, I'm not sure if you caught it or not. Well, you were there, so you didn't see the television, but they did go through each of the lineups and they asked the players. They said, "So is it have a catch or play catch?" And they went through, Aaron Judge, they went through everybody, and one, I think they might have done about 20 total. One said, it's have a catch. And the other guys were like, "What are you talking about?" So even,
He was probably from New York.
even them playing in the Field of Dreams game, right? They still didn't realize what it was, which.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it's for all of us. It sounds a little funny unless you're from, Long Island, I guess.
I love it. I personally love it.
Yeah.
So,
Do you
yes,
stay in touch with all those guys from the original film?
I'm sorry, say again?
Do you stay in touch with the guys?
Yeah, pretty much. I see Kevin always at reunions and he just lives like 15 minutes up the coast from me. And, I see Tim Busfield, we saw him at the last game. And, a lot of the guys who played the other band baseball players, Chuck Hoyas and Steve Easton. And I mean, Art LaFleur sadly died last year, and as did, Ray, sadly.
Yeah.
But we run into those guys and, it's Frank Whaley, all those guys. Yeah. It's always, I don't know what it's like. I suppose it's like, being on a championship baseball team once upon a time, you have a lot of rapport and stories, but life goes on.
Yeah, that's great.
so for the people that don't know, this is
Oh, look at that.
one of my favorite pieces. And this is one of the things you do when you do signings around the world, right? It's
Yeah. I don't know. I guess I try to make my signature legible. You know what I mean? Like,
it's beautiful.
Yeah, I try to be generous with people. My dad was an architect, so I have my printing really nice, because I go to a lot of memorabilia stuff and you see this beautiful baseball with some beautiful scribbly name on it. You don't even know who it is. Anyway.
All right. Yep.
Yeah, it's kind of funny for me because, I don't get asked for my autograph very much, but around this movie, and I know it means stuff to people, which is why I, kind of, make it available to people. Because like I said, I think people, maybe I'm flattering myself, but more than a lot of other movies, they want a Field of Dreams space in their man cave. They want
Absolutely.
something that they can, because that movie just, it connects us with everything that's beautiful about baseball.
Really.
Certainly baseball has gone off to, whatever it is. And this kind of, like James Earl says, baseball has marked the time, so anyway, it's kind of fun, I think, to sign stuff for people and I know that they cherish it.
It's
Jason,
awesome.
Jason, where did you get that piece from? Tell us a little bit about that, Jason.
Well, that was at Bases Loaded here
Oh,
Here
yeah,
in
that's right.
Buffalo.
Okay.
Yeah.
How long ago was that?
Oh, geez. What was it, Dwyer? I mean, it was,
Yeah, it was only about a year and a half
I
ago,
was
I
gonna
think.
say
Okay,
little,
that's
little
recent.
over a year ago.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, that's
it's,
nice.
And
It's
that's
honestly-
that's a good example though of where it takes you, right?
oh, it's one of my favorite pieces.
Yeah.
And no, I mean, for Dwyer though, an example
Yeah.
of, it took you to Buffalo, a suburb of Buffalo, New York, right? To do,
Yeah, I've been to Buffalo twice with
Yeah.
Field of Dreams. I happen to have one of my college buddies lives there, and that's another kind of great event. You know, I end up in, I'm going to Altoona, Pennsylvania.
Right.
And I'm going to, Northeast Ohio in July. And I went to Italy. Who knew they played baseball in Italy? But they have a yearly convention. I mean, it's just kind of amazing that that my little part in this movie has taken me to so many different places and meet people from all around the world.
If I may, I do want to ask you another question. Aside from Field of Dreams, I noticed you were in, I heard you earlier mention Civil War. I know you were in Gettysburg, right? And I think you've taken on a few roles. I think, are you a Civil War guy? You a Civil War buff guy, or?
I am. Yeah. I mean, gosh, shooting that movie to me, what's interesting is there's sort of a comparison between those two movies. We shot Gettysburg on the battlefields in Gettysburg. And if none of you have ever been there, I
have been there, and I love the movie, and I'm a Civil War nerd, and that's why I'm asking.
Yeah.
It's fascinating.
Those battlefields, you can feel it still.
Oh, God, hair on your arm stands up.
60 years. Yeah, totally. And, so it was an honor to shoot there and to see all these extras dressed up and, in the cast reenacting these battles on the battlefields. It was, really, like you said, it was just chills. And, of course, I think the site there, the movie site at Field of Dreams has also created that same kind of hallowed ground. I think so many
It's got that feel.
baseball fans have taken their parents' ashes or their dad's mitts and all that stuff and left those memories, and they somehow inhabit the whole area in the corn there. And, it's just such a great honor to have been a part of two films that sort of carry that energy and keep it alive, I think.
Yeah, I mean, the Gettysburg is a phenomenal film. Glory is one of my favorite films as well. To be a part of a project like that had to be incredible, especially for someone who was kind of into that history.
Yeah.
Now, when they did the battle scenes, did they find the actors who recreate those scenes, right? So did they go to like a local recreation, or do they have actors all come in and do that?
No,
do you have any idea?
most of the cast of that movie were Civil War reenactors.
Okay, yeah, yep.
And it was kind of amazing. They had, I don't know how many extras, maybe, 1,000 or 2,000.
Yeah.
They didn't have enough to really make the battle look good. So these guys would put on Yankee uniforms and they would shoot all the Yankee side. Then they'd put on Reb uniforms.
Wow.
Shoot it from the other side so that they had enough, they had to the overwhelming numbers, like at Pickett's Charge, of people that were just killed there. You couldn't have had that many extras. And
it's unbelievable.
Yeah, it really is kind of amazing. And to me, my hats have always been off to the reenactors, because I think they made that movie. I mean, those guys, while we were heading back to our cushy hotel rooms, they were living in tents, doing what they do every weekend that they have these things, is living like the Civil War soldiers did live. And,
Yep.
It really brought so much to the film, I think.
Yeah. What do you think, Donovan? You want to do your favorite segment?
Yeah, well, we do have a new segment, right? It's called Rapid Fire. So surprisingly enough, we can tell them. So we have 3 interviews today, alone. We just got through with one, and then we were fortunate enough to have you, and we have another one later this evening. So it's been an action-packed day for MoneyBall. Getting to know you a little bit, and just hearing your story. I mean, you sound like just an absolutely phenomenal person. And it is touching for me to hear, how you receive others, right? So everybody can, they can portray themselves a different way, or say, you know what, I'm sick of you guys talking about this movie when I've done so many other things in my career, because you've had a brilliant career. I was still going to ask if there was any current projects that you were working on. But it's just to see how grounded you are, how down to earth you are, and how well you receive others is, to me, I mean, hats off to you, because that really says a lot about your character.
Well, thanks. I just sort of realized, I'm a fan of things and people myself. And when you go up to somebody and say, hey, man, I just love your work or whatever, and they're kind of like,
Right,
you
right.
kind of feel bad, and I thought, like, I don't want to make people feel that way. If they genuinely feel, like I wanted my career to be bigger than it was, but do I need to apologize to everybody in the world for that? In retrospect, I love my life. And I know that if I'd had more success, it would be different. So I'm very happy with where
What
I
a
am.
great way to look at things. What an amazing way to look at things.
And to me, even that exchange of, hey, I'm a fan, that's a two-way street. They're saying, hey, man, thank you. And the least I can do is say, you're welcome, or thank you for saying it, or something, and just complete that transaction. It's very much like, I came from the theater, and, you're on stage, you do your show, then people applaud for you. Sometimes people go out and do their curtain call. They're kind of like, they know they had a bad night, so they kind of like wave it off, but as an audience member, you're like, well, what's wrong with that guy? Rather than just be like, okay, this is what I did tonight. Some nights I'm great. Some nights maybe I have an off performance, but if you liked it, thank you for applauding anyway, or whatever. So anyway,
I get it.
Yeah.
Is there any current projects you're working on?
Not too much. I like I said, this is the book that I wrote about A Field of Dreams. It's called.
I can't wait for that. Now, when was that released?
Gosh, I guess it came out around the 25th anniversary.
Okay.
And but what's kind of cool is I just did a audio version where I narrate the book. It's on Audible.
Okay.
But what's kind of cool is because I got to do it myself, I just decided to let what emotions came as I was doing it. I just kind of left them on the tape, and I read a lot of stories about these amazing encounters I have, and I get a little emotional myself. So anyway,
I can't wait for that. I have an Audible account, and now that you've told me that and that you're narrating it, I can't wait to hear that. Actually, I'm going to listen to that probably today.
I've got a lot of great reviews on Amazon, and it's kind of nice because people say it creates the same feeling that the movie does, and there's no higher compliment than that, I think. So
that's phenomenal. So let's go with the rapid fire. Jay, I'm going to let you start. The concept of the rapid fire is pretty much that. We're going to ask you a question, give you a couple seconds to respond, right? Whatever.
Six questions in total.
Right? Actors usually have a script. This is off script for me. Okay.
This is off script. We try to surprise you a little bit. We're looking for honest, quick answers. So here we go. Question number 1. Who was your favorite player growing up?
Roberto Clemente.
That's a good choice.
What an answer, first of all. And wow, that's Roberto Clemente is I'm a tried and true Atlanta Braves fan. Have been since I was a kid. But if I had to pick, a single most baseball player that I admired, it's definitely Roberto Clemente.
He's always talking about Roberto Clemente.
I am, and we're so close to Pittsburgh, 2.5-hour drive. I do go down there and check out a couple games, and tour the field. Even though I've done it, I'll do it again. And what that guy did for that city, was unbelievable. And as a humanitarian, that's how he lost his life, tragically in the end. And what I always tell people who don't know, 3,000 hits on the nose.
On the nose.
Yeah. For a story to be any on the nose, never to get another hit and to get that is crazy. So it's a great answer. I approve of your answer. How's that?
Well, gee, I didn't know approval was involved.
Yeah, I didn't know either, but that's all right.
All right. So rapid fire number 2. You've been to Buffalo a couple times. You prefer the wings or the drums when you get a chicken wing?
Drums.
You're a drum guy? Thank you for that too, because I am as well. Jay?
All right. Question 3. What was the one role that you didn't get that you just really wish you did?
Gosh, I can think of it's called Rich in Love. And, that's kind of funny. I was desperate to do this movie, kind of humiliated myself, embarrassed myself trying to get this part. Now nobody's even heard of the movie.
Yeah, right.
It was just one of those that I wanted so bad. And, that's the short answer. And there's not much more to.
What is your favorite movie of all time?
Gosh.
Is this your question, Donovan?
This is rapid fire.
Okay.
Best movie. Groundhog Day. I don't know.
Okay. I love this guy. I love this guy.
Yeah.
Groundhog Day or Citizen Kane. So I'll give you kind of a spectrum there.
That's fair.
And this is our last question, right?
Last question.
Number 6. I'm sure over the years you've put together some kind of collection of baseball stuff. What's your favorite piece in your collection?
Oh, wow. I have a framed Roberto Clemente photo and stuff. I suppose that's my favorite. You know, to me, what's one of the things, I mean, I don't know how much time we have, but one of the things that's been amazing to me is all the Hall of Fame players I've gotten to meet. I was at a signing and Ozzie Smith, somebody came up and said, Ozzie Smith wants to meet you.
Jeez.
So I go back to the back and Ozzie's just great. He's the nicest guy. I don't know if any of you have met him. He's just the sweetest guy. He introduces me to Pete Rose and Vida Blue and Bob Gibson and all these other guys back there. He wants to take a picture with me.
Wow.
I put my arm around him. Johnny Bench photobombs us. Johnny Bench wants me to sign his press pass while we were there. And I mean, I'm like, what are you kidding me? These are people, my heroes, you know, and to, you know, to know that movie means so much to people who've made a living in baseball, who are the greatest players, you know, we've ever seen is humbling to me. But, you know, it's just one of the great perks of having done my 5 minutes in Field of Dreams.
Absolutely. I did get a chance to meet Pete Rose, and he's a great guy. You know, he takes a lot of slack for everything, but he's a no doubt Hall of Famer, first ballot, in my opinion. And he's also a very humble, cool person, you know. I
agree. I think Shoeless Joe should be in too, but I mean, I don't think my word is going to sway the vote, but
no, but I totally agree with you. And you know what, I'm very much looking forward to, because there's no question, and I mean this in all sincerity, that this is now on my list of places to go.
Yeah.
You know, out in Iowa, we're planning Wyoming this summer or next, and you know, I'll have to look at the map again, but somehow I'm going to figure out how to get to both.
We'll have to try to plan it together.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Hey, now I got a question for you guys.
All right.
Okay. Hey, Jason.
Yeah.
Hey, Donovan.
Yes.
Want to have a catch?
Thank you again for doing this. This interview meant a lot to me personally. So I can't thank you enough, and we appreciate it.
My pleasure.
Take care, Dwyer.
Take care.
Thanks.